and welcome back to my small little library. Let's talk about my reading in June. I don't know. It's slightly positive, slightly negative. I did manage to actually finish 10 books, which I'm surprised about. It felt less, I would say. But at the same time, let me show you all of the books from my TBR that I didn't read. These are all of the books that I should have read that I didn't read. As you can see, those are 6 books. I mean, I knew that I wouldn't get through all of them, but yeah, I have 6 over. I finished 3, 4, 5, 6 books from the TBR that I had done. So I finished 50% of the TBR I set for last month, and yeah, I'm not happy with that. I don't know, it is a little bit disappointing, but yeah, reading, it's crazy. It's neither here nor there some month, I was really bad at picking the books that I wanted to read for the month. So let's start with the first book I finished, and that was Sleeping Beauties by Stephen and Owen King. I have to say, being totally honest, I couldn't really tell that it wasn't written just by Stephen King. I don't know if his son has like a really similar writing style to his, so you can't really see the difference. That might be it, but yeah, I couldn't tell. But I really liked the book. I give it 4 stars. It was a really positive surprise, to be honest. Yeah, it is. I don't really know how to describe the book. It is a weird book, it's mostly contemporary with a little bit of supernatural stuff in there, but mostly contemporary. And yeah, you have like a normal small town setting. We get the point of the police chief, which is a woman in this case, and then we get the point of her husband, who is a psychologist who works in the female prison that is there. And yeah, then everyone starts, like, women start falling asleep, and there's a cocoon growing out of their heads, and so just one day, if you lay down as a woman, you won't wake up again. And everything goes crazy after that, but it is in such a, like, it's so good the way it is done that it was really, really cool, I really liked the descriptiveness of the book. I thought that was really, really greatly done. I don't know, at some parts it was a little bit too long. Other parts I felt like were like perfect from like the description of everything. I felt the ending was a little bit disappointing, but I feel like it's a logical ending, so it's just disappointing to me, not like a general disappointment. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was really happy about that because I mean, it doesn't have the best reviews, especially for a Stephen King book. But for me, it did work out really, really well. So yeah, I would recommend it if you haven't read it yet. If you want a slightly weird small town mystery with a little bit of supernatural stuff in there, and a book about really, really horrible men, then that is the book for you. Yeah. After that, I read a really, really bad book, and that is We All Fall Down by Rose Chabot. I talked with this book actually with a friend of mine because she studies social studies. She does her master's at the moment. And I find this book is like kind of fitting of everything that is wrong with people wanting to write about queer stuff. It is a queer fantasy novel that tries to do like the alternative fairy tale thing, but in the end it's hypersexualized. It is really, really wrong. I feel like it exploits certain aspect of queerness, and the book was really, really bad and boring. I don't know, it wasn't enjoyable at all. None of these characters behave in any way realistic. Like, they are all so weirdly and over the top. And then we also have like references to fairy tales and to Disney movies, like Alice in Wonderland, for example. I mean, I know that it's also just fairy tale, but it feels so weird because we have like aspects like Jack, like the Beanstalk, kind of fairy tale thingy. I don't know what it's called in English. I'm sorry. I don't even know what it's called in German if I'm thinking about it, you know. But yeah, we have that, and then we have adults, and we have all of these weirdly thrown together things, and none of it makes sense. It's a bad book. I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not gonna go further into it. I don't want to pick up another book by the author. The book made me actually really angry at points, because at the beginning I felt like, oh, this could be a wonderful book, and then the longer I read it, the more I hated it, and I gave it 2 stars. The writing isn't horrible. I think I rarely feel like I'm justified in giving 1 star, which is why I gave 2 stars. You know, it's a readable book. It just makes you angry if you read it, you know. And it's also a really, really bad representation of queerness, which makes me angry, to be honest, because I don't think they need more bad representation. I don't think that is necessary. Then the next book I read was Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. This one I gave 3 stars. I feel like this book is like, it's a hard one to review actually. I don't really know what the book wanted to do. I got it and I felt like it was supposed to be a haunted house story, but it isn't really a haunted house story. It's more one of those dark family mystery stories rooted in like the racist evil roots of America, because it plays out in a small town in America, and then it goes into the supernatural realms kind of, and the ending is like really like, I feel like gothic horror, house horror, but it's just the ending, you know? It's not the complete book. So yeah, I don't really know how to categorize this book, and I think that is what made me not love it as much. It was interesting. I give the book that. We have Starling House, which is the main place where it plays out, and then we have our main character who has a really, really rough life, and she feels drawn to Starling House, and because she's kind of like staying around there, she meets the guy who currently lives there, and he hires her as housekeeper pretty much, and it just goes off the rails from there. And we have a lot of like family drama, family secrets, and then the supernatural stuff, monsters and stuff like that on top of that. But I felt like, I don't know, I didn't love the characters. I liked the concept of the story. I didn't totally love the way it was done. But I have to say, the copy of the book is incredibly pretty. I really love this copy of the book. Then, next up, I need to be quicker. We have Portridge of a Thief, a book that was really disappointing to me. 2 stars as well. It is pretty much a book that covers the topic of stolen artifacts from countries, in this case China, who are now in America, in Europe, everywhere over the world, where they have gotten because they were stolen at one point, and the countries just don't want to give them back for whatever reason. And our main characters are like 5 college students. All of them are Chinese American, and they plan to steal those artifacts for someone, and that is the journey. Pretty much every one of the characters is like a stereotype of the behavior or like opinions of people who are like mixed, who have like 2 nationalities pretty much. It's really stereotypical. There are relationships in here that come out of nowhere, that don't make sense, that are really, really weird. For it being a heist novel, there isn't really a heist, and also I got it in a fantasy book box, and there's no fantasy in here. It is a contemporary book. I didn't get that. So yeah, I didn't like the book. I liked the thing the book wanted to do, but the ending was incredibly disappointing and bad in my opinion, and it made the whole book mood. Everything about the book. So yeah, I don't know what to tell you otherwise. I wouldn't read it, if I'm honest. Then I continued with the Maze Runner series. I read part 2. I gave it 2 stars. We have a lot of 2 stars this month, which tells you how my reading was going. Yeah, to be honest, these books are not good. The books really make me angry because they have like twists and turns at like every 30 pages, it feels like, and none of it matter at all for the complete series. None of it. None of these twists and turns. Everything is moot in the end, and it made me really, really angry. I don't really like the characters in the book. I don't know. Don't read them. You know, if you want to read like a post-apocalyptic teenager book, go with the Hunger Games. I don't know why you would read the Maze Runner. I got it in a book box and I read it because, you know, I thought, why not? And that was, yeah, you know, I wouldn't recommend them. It's just not worth it, to be honest. It just makes you angry, especially the third part, which we come to in a minute, because I also read that this month, and yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was worth the time I spent reading it. After that, I listened to one audiobook, which is the only audiobook I listened. No, one of two audiobooks I listened to this month, and it's called Determined: Science of Life Without Free Will by Robert M. Sapolsky, which is an author that I really enjoyed. His book by Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. It's a book that helped me quite a lot, which is why I listened to this one. I gave it 3 stars, only because I feel bad giving less, because it is an important topic. It talks about free will. But I don't think it's a book that should exist in audiobook form. It didn't work because every second or third sentence was like, look into the appendix. But when I listen to an audiobook, I typically don't have access to look at a PDF every like third sentence, which was really destroying the reading flow of the book, you know. So yeah, I didn't like it because of that. I also had some problems with the way he talks about the topic, but let's be honest, I have no idea about the topic. I'm not a scientist. I haven't studied anything in that direction, so I feel like my opinion really doesn't matter that much in that yet. But yeah, I wouldn't agree with everything he says in the book, but it is a really, really, really interesting topic, and I do need to buy a physical copy so I can read it in like the way it is supposed to be read, to be honest. But yeah, he comes with a lot of like sources and studies and stuff like that, but in an audiobook form, it really doesn't make sense, you know. So yeah, after I finished that, we have the next 2-star read with The Desk Cure. It was just bad, you know. Same thing as the second part of the series. It is not worth reading. The ending will make you angry. There's also a weird age gap relationship with the main character that I don't think is appropriate in any way in the book. And yeah, it's just, you know, it's you stop caring about what happens to the characters in like the middle of the second book, and after that obviously it's just over, you know. So yeah, I gave it 2 stars. Then we have another 3-star read, and that is The Heart of Muriel, book 1 of the Shadow League by Maggie Fury. This one I actually kind of liked. It is an older fantasy book from the 2000s, I think, and we have a world that is pretty much some godlike beings took a species from different planets that were on the brink of extinction and put them onto the Earth, on Earth-like planet, and they put water curtains between the kingdoms so they don't know that there are other ones because they can't traverse through them, to keep them separate and keep all of them alive. And humans are one of these species. We have drakes, we have dragons, we have wind sprites, we have insect-like beings, and what was the last one? I think like oh, what is the name? Centipede like beings, and then the other ones is like oh, I don't know, I forgot it, but it was another insect like one. And then at the beginning of the story, these walls are breaking down, and that obviously causes chaos because they all didn't know that the other ones were there, except for the Shadow League, who is pretty much a league that could traverse through those curtains, and they try to find out what is happening and why it's happening. And that is what this is about. It's an adventure. I didn't love all of the characters. I didn't love all of the storylines. A few of them were a little bit like, yeah. It is a slow start, but yeah, I gave it 3 stars. I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. You know, it's just a typical fantasy, which was kind of refreshing after all of the really bad books I've read. Other than that, you know. Then we have the next 2-star read, which I told you this month wasn't the greatest one, and that is The Red Scholar's Wake. And this is just weird. It's a space pirate book. And the main focus is on the romance between our main character, who was she was taken captive by the pirates, and the shipmate of the ship that she got captured onto, and they make a marriage contract for some reason because it's better for the two, and then things go obviously wrong from there, and the pirates are kind of split, someone to be more brutal, someone to be less brutal. It is nothing happening in the air. Like, the book is really skinny anyways, and there's still nothing happening in this, and the romance was on the forefront, which I found to be really disappointing, because, you know, if I want to read a romance book, I would read a romance book. But yeah, I wanted space adventure, and I didn't get any space adventure. Really, you know, there was so little in that book, and yeah, I didn't love the characters as well. So yeah, I don't know, I didn't love it. Also, it's by Elliot de Bodard, I think is how you pronounce it. I have no idea. And then let's talk about the last two books, which were 2 3-star reads. So yeah, we don't have anything better than we had 1 4-star read this month, which is really, really bad, you know. But yeah, the next book I listened to is the Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Heroes. So, The Lost Hero. The second book, no, the first book in the second series that has something to do with Percy Jackson, you know. I gave this 3 stars not because it's a bad book. I mean, it is pretty much really, really similar to the Percy Jackson books, to the first one. Just that it is thicker, but there isn't more happening, and it was so similar to Percy Jackson in like how the story is set up and stuff, that I just couldn't give it more than 3 stars, because I find it disappointing that it is so similar. I know that I'm more or less alone with that opinion, because the book has really, really good reviews, but I feel like the only difference between that and Percy Jackson is that we now have the Roman version of the gods instead of the Greek versions of the god, which is interesting, but that doesn't help the book feel unique compared to Percy Jackson, and that was my biggest problem with the book. But yeah, if you like Percy Jackson, it is pretty much the same, so you will obviously enjoy it. I just think that it's kind of too similar. And then the last book that I read in the month was Takeown by Stephen Leather. This is a military thriller. It was kind of weird, to be honest. I gave it 3 stars. It is a little bit too crazy, I feel like. Also, it's pretty much one of those action thrillers where your main character is overpowered over everyone, which is also why I gave it a little bit less of a rating, because while it is entertaining, you really realize straight at the beginning that there's no way that anything will end badly because of how the main character is written, which is enjoyable, but yeah, it's like an action movie you just watch for the entertainment and for nothing more, you know, which is totally fine, but it doesn't get anything better than 3 stars, in my opinion, you know. Those are the 10 books that I've read this month, and as you can see, it wasn't a good reading month. But it also means I got 11 books I've read, you know. The one I have not as a physical copy, but like 10 physical books. It means that I got 10 books down from my TBR, which is amazing, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, I got a lot of the not so great books from my TBR done, which maybe is also a good thing. But yeah, maybe you can realize why I haven't read all of the books that were on my TBR, because the ones that were on it, that I have read, I didn't really love, and so I didn't even try to get through a lot of the other ones. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about the bad books I read this month. And yeah, if you've read any of these books, leave your opinion down below. Maybe you can give me a different perspective to the books. And yeah, I always like to hear what other people think of the books, you know. And yeah, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!